Won't you please come join me for some midnight therapy? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Midnight Therapy. I am your host, the one and only Kat Matthews. I am here recording on a glorious Saturday morning. Coffee was delicious, right out of the pot. I had leftover the wing sauce flavor is called Hot Jack-Off from Jack's Pub and Eatery. I had that. I ordered it with extra garlic. I had that at 9:20 in the morning. I had the hot coffee and that. So my breath is rancid right now. Thank God you can't smell it, but I'm smelling it, and it's rough. It's a little much. But that's not your problem. Anywho, here we are, back into the swing of things. Another week down, getting into the routine of having a baby at home. Our newborn baby is here, as I said. Getting used to dad life. It's not as bad as people say. It's kind of fun, actually. And there is still time to do things. Babies sleep a lot. They eat, and then they poop or pee, sometimes both, and then they eat, then they nap, then they repeat in that order or not. So, there's some free time to for you yourself as a parent to nap, or to do a podcast in the basement with a cowboy hat, whatever you wish to do with your time. You know what I'm doing with mine. This Wednesday, I left the baby with Christy and our family that were watching to go to a concert with Christy's brother AJ, who I mentioned pretty good amount of times on this show already. He came in for the Creed concert. I have the shirt. The Creed concert was interesting, but Creed was with Daughtry and this band Mammoth, and they're only notable. Mammoth is only notable because Eddie Van Halen's son is in the band. His name is Wolfgang. Cool name, but little rant, very quick rant. Just because your father or your parents were good at something doesn't mean you have the same prestige. Like, I love Eddie Van Halen, but I don't know. It's like, hey, look, this is Elvis's son. It's like, well, that's cool, but I don't know. No guarantee you're going to carry the same vibe and talent and, I don't know, aura as your parents. I don't know. So I didn't really care about Mammoth. I did care about Daughtry, though. Daughtry is like divorced mom rock, which I love, and Creed is divorced dad rock. So it was the best of both worlds, but there was lightning and thunder and the worst concert venue in the world, that is the Montage Mountain Pavilion. It used to be the Toyota Pavilion. Now it's the Pavilion at Montage. Montage Mountain. There is one road up this giant mountain, which is a ski resort. And they also put a baseball field up there and a concert venue. And there's one way up, and they double book. And this show was on a Wednesday. And the traffic is horrendous. And the venue always messes things up. And they canceled Mammoth and Daughtry. So that was disappointing. But I did get to see Creed. And the only reason I was very excited to go to see Creed is they have a song called With Arms Wide Open, which is a song about having your first child. So Christy made me a sign, and we were like, let's try to bring it in. And sure enough, we did. Long story short, people saw the sign once they started playing that song, and they pushed me all the way through the pit, right to the front row. And the security guard up there started ripping the sign out of my hand. And then the guitar player of Creed came over and was like, no, and gave me a pick and like the thumbs up of approval. So Creed did acknowledge the sign. I call that a successful day. It meant a lot to me. It was very emotional and cool. What an epic thing to tell her one day. I can't wait to say, you were a week old and me and your uncle went to the Creed concert. For you. We did it for you. You're welcome. Here's a guitar pick from Creed. And she'll go, what? Anyways, we came home, and then AJ, we were feeling pretty good, and AJ wanted to do the pod, and we tried to do the pod, and it didn't really work. You almost got an AJ episode, but can't get into the details. They're classified, but it was pulled. It will not air. It will not air. Maybe next time. I know you're all upset. But yeah. Last episode was a lot of heavy stuff, We got into the crazy conspiracy theories and talked about Jeffrey Epstein, that monster. Little politics. We're still going to do that a little on this, but I have some lighthearted stuff to talk about as well. We're going to try to keep it light. Every episode can't be that heavy, I think on that episode I said Disney was a proven anti-Semitic. I want to say sorry. I don't know if that's true. I looked into it. It's not proven. There's many theories, and a lot of people regurgitate that tidbit about Walt, but I don't know if it's true, and I will not spread lies on this show. So if it is not confirmed, then I have to say it's a rumor. I don't think it's true. I may have said it was true. I'm sorry, Walt. I love Disney and a lot of the stuff they do. The corporation is evil now. It's like a monopoly now, and it's woke and not what it was. But what Walt did, can't be mad at that. The guy turned looking into a couple barn animals in his barn when he was a kid into like a beloved brand of hope and wonder. You can't hate him for that. So, sorry, Walt. We were having a debate, me and Christy, the other day about baseball. I don't know if anyone likes sports on this show, but this will have nothing to do with sports, what I'm about to say. Why is baseball called baseball? Like the bases are a very unimportant part of the game. They are as important to the game as they are to kickball. There are bases in kickball as well. You do not call kickball baseball because the more important part about the kickball is that you're kicking the ball, right? Bases are a part of the game, but not the whole part. That's like if we were to call baseball dugout ball. But there's dugouts. Yeah, we know. Still not the most important part of the game. What's the most important part of the game? Tell me. Anyone? Class? It's the bat. You're batting. You bat. You hit. You use a bat. It's a baseball bat. It should be called bat ball. Like as kickball is called kickball, baseball should be called bat ball because the bases aren't that important. Another one is football. Why is it called football when you rarely use your foot on that ball? Only one player does that. I mean, you do kick it two different parts, two different times throughout the game. There are two different opportunities you'll ever kick the ball in that game. Tackle happens a lot. Maybe call it tackle ball, Just saying, this is what I think geniuses think about during the day. Either genius or mad. Genius and madness are very close. I always say this, but that's what we were talking about the other day. Let me know what you think. How about that possessed Annabelle doll? I don't even want to talk about this. I don't even want that energy in here, in this room, or in your homes, but I'm just going to talk about it briefly. I guess there's this possessed Annabelle doll that was on tour. It was like a tour of this haunted demon doll. And it was going around, and it was in Gettysburg, PA, our state. We love Pennsylvania. And I guess the rules were you weren't supposed to touch it or move the doll from the case, or I don't know. And her handler, this doll's handler, touched it. And then he died unexpectedly right after. I don't know what to make of any of that. My advice is don't go near any haunted Raggedy Ann dolls, even if someone says they're haunted. Like if I was at a yard sale and I looked at one, first of all, I would never buy one. Who knows where it's been? There's probably mites in it, and somebody probably peed on it. But even if you were brazen enough to try to buy it, if someone ever said that thing's haunted, I would never go, yeah, okay. I would put it right down and say, all right, have a good day. So why somebody would go on like a Harlem Globetrotters tour with this doll, I don't know what's going on. And why anyone would want to go, I don't know. There's all this weirdness now. Like I called it in the past, I called these women, mostly women, spooky sluts, like a spooky slut. And that's not to be disparaging. That's just a term for women that are really into Halloween, like a bad bitch, but for Halloween. They get like Jack Skeleton tattoos and they love Michael Myers and they're always wearing like goth outfits. They're doing scream mask photo shoots in the woods with their butt painted like a pumpkin. This is real. I didn't make this up. And I think that took over. Now everybody's like into horror and the occult again and Ouija. And I think a lot of people are just posers and they don't really know what that stuff is. Like they bought the bedazzled Ouija board with unicorns and rainbows on it from Five Below. Swear to God, there is a gender specific Ouija board. There's a boy and a girl Ouija board at Five Below. I didn't know there had to be a, gender norm applied to a Ouija board, but there is. I thought Ouija boards were, gender fluid or I don't know. What's the one where there's no gender? What's that? What is that? There's a term. It's not asexual. Non-binary. Non-binary? Not male, female, non-binary. Yeah. I thought Ouija boards were non-binary. Yeah, I think a lot of people are messing around with stuff they should be messing around with just to fit in. It's not just a fad or a phase. It's a way of life. If you're going to be an occultist, you got to know what you're doing first. Don't go touching Annabelle dolls. I don't know. Shane Gillis, comedian, very funny, one of my favorites. He hosted the ESPYs Awards. Has to do with sports. Who cares? I didn't know there was award shows for sports. I must live under a rock. But the only reason I bring it up is he's getting a lot of backlash and scrutiny for his offensive jokes. Only reason I bring this up, if you are hosting some event and you hire a comedian, expect the comedian to do comedy. Expect them to make jokes. That's their job. You hire a baker, they're going to bake something of some sorts, whether it be a cake or a cupcake or a souffle or I don't know, some type of pastries, a croissant, something. He comes out with a croissant. You go, whoa, what are you doing? I'm the baker. Oh, okay. Whew. The comedian, we hired the comedian. He comes out and tells a joke. Oh my God, what are you doing? I'm telling jokes. I'm the comedian. So it's just infuriating. We had this with Tony Hinchcliffe. We had this with all these comedians, people getting all up in arms. They're comedians. That's their job. Their job is to get a reaction out of you. And it worked. So to you people, go away. Anybody familiar with this woman? I don't know. JoJo Siwa. I guess she was this child star. She was a children's star, a child actor. And then she switched over and then became this LGBTQ activist of some sorts. Now, again, I don't know anything about JoJo Siwa. I'm just telling you what I read recently. And then she dressed up like Gene Simmons from Kiss for a while and was like this dark punk sort of goth person. And she was a big voice of the LGBTQ. She was saying she was queer and all this stuff and all these words that people don't understand, that a lot of people don't understand. And now she overnight switched to this wholesome, conservative, Marilyn Monroe looking creature that is now straight overnight. And that's fine. She covered this old song, Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes, I guess. Didn't really think this song was anything that iconic. I mean, if you lived in the 80s, it was probably something you remember well. You're like, oh, I know that song. Sort of like I remember Caillou, the show. But I would never say it was great. I mean, song's definitely memorable, but I wouldn't say it's great. And even the original Kim, whatever her name is, she sounded like RFK. So raspy, and I get it. The delivery is nice. The uniqueness of your voice is important. But I would never say, wow, what vocals on her? I would say, okay, sound like you did a lot of, smoked a lot of cigs and you partied hard in the 80s. That's what it sounds like. You didn't really have any modern day vocal training or health guidelines of what certain recreational drugs and alcohol do to your voice. Like a lot of people in the 80s. But even the original, she sounded like Rod Stewart. Anywho, this newly not gay anymore, now conservative, straight, modest woman, Marilyn Monroe lookalike, JoJo Siwa, who was just recently a member of Kiss with the face makeup, came out covering that song to prove that she is some type of nostalgic icon. And she sounded exactly like the Kim Carnes version, which was raspy and rough, in my opinion. And when you do a cover, you're supposed to do a cover, and you should know it's not the original. You should be like, oh, that's someone new. You don't want to copy their exact diction and phrasing and dialect and gruffness of their voice. You want to just sing it in your voice. Well, you know it's the song, but you know it's a different person singing it. She did it like verbatim and got a lot of attention because of how, I guess, bad it was. Some people like it. Some people like anything. Like if these people are diehard fans, they'll be like, it was so good. And then remember, 1/3 of all people or more are bots. Paid for bots. There's server farms, there's 5 million phones hooked up, and they comment very specific AI driven comments. Sometimes not so specific. It'll be like, this changed my life. How beautiful. Much love. And then other ones will be like, she sounds amazing. Don't listen to the haters. I love JoJo Siwa. Be spelt a little wrong. Those are bots. But I thought it was not great. But I love how things get popular, A lot of people in the LGBTQ community are a little upset. They feel like she used them and their, I don't know, I guess, tendency to be easily accepting of causes. Let's put it that way. They used their kindness, let's say, to make money. That's what JoJo Siwa did. She goes, this is a group. I could sell a lot of tickets to them and merchandise, and they'll love that I'm a queer Gene Simmons, and they will buy lots of my merch. And it worked. She did the cash grab. You got had. Sorry. That's why we don't make these intersections of our personality our entire personality, We don't make our entire life. I'm gay. Like, you don't, that's not the first thing you tell someone. Like, I'm vegan. Like, that's the first thing that comes off the tongue sometimes. And when you do that and you make that important, people, bad people, maybe like JoJo Siwa, will take advantage of your clear and distinct labeling of yourself. Just the cowboy in the basement here. We're going to move on to Trump now. And there's a lot to say. Still upset with him, still upset with the president, but there have been some developments. He doubled down and called some of his base stupid and gullible weaklings. Now, what do you make of that? What does Trump's base make of that? Are they even going to be upset? Are they going to defend that one? They're going to say, well, he didn't really mean it. He didn't mean weaklings. It was actually a Q-tip. What he meant was you take the S from stupid and you take the U from gullible and you take the K from weaklings and it means SUK, which means secret underground cabal. I just made that up, but that's how people think. They're like, well, he didn't really mean that. He said it, but he didn't mean it. He's calling this Epstein situation a Democrat-backed hoax, which is kind of what he always says. Do you notice that? It's kind of what he always says. And he's kind of like the boy who cried wolf because it's going to ruin him at the end. He did cave, and Trump usually never caves, but he doubled down. He called everybody stupid, but then he's like, all right, because of the pressure, I'm ordering the Attorney General, Bondi, to release the Epstein grand jury testimonies. How weird. So that's happening. That's not great. It's not great. Elmo, the puppet from Sesame Street, Elmo, the red one, his X account got hacked and started going on these rants about Trump and criticism of the administration and all these anti-Semitic posts. Anybody see that right after the Epstein thing happened? A little weird. The reason I say Trump needs to stop crying wolf and crying hoax is people aren't going to believe him when it actually is a hoax, and that actually just happened. There was Tulsi Gabbard was behind this. She looked into the 2016 election and proved that the Obama administration and high-up admin did create and push the false made-up narrative of Russian collusion. Look that up. Look it up. They did try to, make sure Trump did not get in there, and they made up that lie blatantly, and Obama and his administration was behind it. Does anyone care? No, nobody cares. You know why? Because the news cycle is a news story every second. By the time I get done with this podcast, 4 things have happened, and I write them down for next week, and it's already old news by then. So nobody cares, but sometimes there is hoaxes going on, and there is corruption and collusion, and if everything is a hoax, then nothing is a hoax. Remember that. Remember that. Trump handled this whole thing horribly with Epstein, and now it's wishy-washy. It goes back and forth, driving me nuts. The story never ends, though. Here's another development, and this is, you can't make this up, ladies and gentlemen. You can't. Listen, there's a story out there now, all over the news. So important that Trump even responded to it. So this isn't like a small story. The story is that Trump drew a naked lady on a birthday card for Jeffrey Epstein. He drew a little naked woman sketch in a birthday card. Trump responded saying that's a lie and that he doesn't even draw. He doesn't even draw. I don't even draw. So think of how ridiculous this is, that this is our president, this is our government, this is our media, and this is what's going on. There's like wars going on and terrible economic problems and illegal immigration, all these issues. But at the forefront of our political atmosphere is, did you draw a naked lady on Jeffy's card? No, I don't even know how to draw. I don't even draw well. And then you think it would end there. And I just read an article this morning saying that this is why the mainstream media is dead, by the way, and should be dead soon. Should be completely done in a matter of a year, in my opinion. They are grasping at straws, and it's so apparent that they are. They came out with an article saying, actually, Trump does draw. Here's an example of a Trump drawing that sold at auction. And it was like the worst kindergarten sketch of a skyscraper that he drew with like a Sharpie. It looked like if your child that was 5 drew a building. And they're like, see, Trump does draw. Case closed. That proves he did draw the naked woman on Jeffrey Epstein's birthday card. What world are we in? What happened? People actually went to college to be journalists? Like, people actually call that a career? Thank God Chat GPT and AI is going to replace everything soon, because this is moronic. This is Barnum and Bailey. Save it. Go to SNL, be a writer for them. Well, you can't. It's going to be gone soon anyways. But yeah, that's what's going on. That's a news story. Trump drew a naked lady on Jeffy's birthday card. Great. I don't even draw. I'm a horrible drawer. I haven't drawn since 3rd grade at Crayolas. They get under my nails. Don't like it much. Not a good drawer. Not the best. I admit it. But then in another situation, he would be the best drawer. It's like, hey, look, Biden drew this sunset photo. He'd be like, I could draw way better than that. You never know what you're getting. You wake up, we slip deeper and deeper into obscurity until it's all just nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Here's my new theory on the Trump situation. Call me crazy, please. I don't care. I don't care what people think. What if this is just a theory? Everything on this show is a theory. Again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a peer reviewed scholar. Okay. This is all theory. Midnight therapy theory. Midnight theory. What if Donald Trump has the list, saw the list, reviewed the list extensively, and then changed up on everyone, said there was no list, and didn't expose anyone intentionally and strategically so that he could keep all the leverage for himself? What if he knows every name on that list and he realizes, because he's a pretty smart guy, that those people are worth a lot more to him not in jail? What's a billionaire worth locking up, putting in jail, and exposing? What, a little satisfaction? A pat on the back from the half the country that still would hate you? Even if you exposed all those freaks, they would still hate you. All the left would still hate you. Why do that when you could have all that leverage and have these people do your bidding until the end of time? You hold the key, you hold the magic book. Why would you share the magic book with the whole world? You have the sports almanac from Back to the Future too, and you're Biff. And that character was based on Trump, by the way. That's a whole nother can of worms, but look that up. But Trump has the book. Why would he give it away? Why would he tell everybody who's in the book, you're going to use that to your leverage? And that's what I think he might be doing. You have to be thinking multi-dimensionally. This is at least 4D chess that's going on. And last episode, I said I didn't think he was playing 4D chess, and I still don't. But my theory is if he was, this is how he's doing it. Why would you expose everyone? Then you have no leverage. They're worth nothing to Trump in jail. And why would you let everyone know? Then everyone else can use it to the leverage. Trump's keeping the leverage for himself. That's what a greedy businessman like him would do. It's the nature of the snake to bite. Don't be surprised when it does. Do you really think Trump would do something selfless in this situation? And an opportunist that he is would not strike while the iron's hot? Of course he would. Even if that made him look stupid by saying, what list? There's no list. I don't know what you're talking about. You nut jobs. Maybe we do have to just sit back and watch it unfold. Who knows? I don't know anything. I'm just a cowboy in the basement. Now, on to something else. Trump was recently diagnosed with I believe it's called chronic venous insufficiency. I'm not a doctor. I hope I said that correct. But it just means there's like a lack of blood flow in your hands and feet, and sometimes you bruise, but it's usually benign. Anyways, Trump ordered his press secretary to inform the nation of this diagnosis, and he called it transparency. He said, I want to do it so he can be transparent. Now, when you're the president, you get very regular physicals. And even if a benign thing is found, it is reported on the report. And it is accessible to the nation. And they will find out one way or another. Someone will leak it, a nurse or somebody will leak it, and that's a big news story. So Trump was, let's get that. Let's avoid that. I'm just going to tell everyone I have this thing, even though it's benign. Now, if the doctor found that Trump has a bruisey little hand and foot due to some blood flow problems, that what 70 some almost 80-year-old doesn't have something like that? If the doctor found that and put it in the report, did the White House doctor not see Biden's stage 4 cancer? That's all I'm saying. Trump was transparent about a vein issue and a blood flow issue, but we heard nothing about Biden's stage 4 cancer. The doctor missed that, and it missed his cognitive abilities severely declining over the past 4 years. Every physical, didn't notice anything was wrong. Yet that's what they told you was the reason he stepped down. That's why he stepped down, because he couldn't do it. That's why you almost gave the country to Kamala Harris. You Democrats out there, you should be insulted. I mean, I know you're insulted by anything Trump does, but are you not insulted that they cheated you out of a primary and they placed Kamala Harris in there and no one voted for her or wanted her because Biden and his administration couldn't be honest with you and tell you that he was going to drop out anyways? You could have had a midterm. You could have had a democratic process. Are you mad that the Obama administration tried to steal the election from Trump in 2016? Do you think that had anything to do with Trump's demeanor towards Democrats? The whole time the guy said this is corrupt and they're trying to take me out, and they actually did try to kill him, someone. You don't understand this guy's anger and frustration. If the roles were reversed, he'd be a little mad. If any little thing happened, you'd run to the streets and protest. Literally anything. No kings, like the George Floyd protest, everybody all over the freaking world protesting. But this comes out that the election was messed with after all, and that the government and the White House doctors do lie. And there won't even, no one will bat an eye. There will be nothing. Even this Epstein stuff, them saying there's nothing. You think there'd be a riot or a protest or something? Nothing. Because you know why? It only happens when you're coaxed into it, when you're pushed into it. You got to push people into it. You got to stir the pot up. Naturally, I don't think these protests would happen organically. And that's why when they do happen and there's 24-hour news coverage of them and there's perfectly timed photos with flags and burning cars, that's planned. That's planned. Nothing happens on accident anymore. Yeah. What a weird world we live in. Stephen Colbert, late night show. Trump celebrated. He put a big post up. He was thrilled and happy that CBS canceled the late show. 100%. They're not replacing Colbert and getting a new host. It's completely canceled after many, many years. And to be honest, thank God. It's about time. These late night shows are insufferable. They are scripted, disingenuous nonsense. They lie. 70% of the show is extremely biased leftist politics. There's not even comedy going on. And the piss poor comedy that is going on with the laugh track, the audience gets a light. It says applause. They're just happy to be there. You know, they're happy to have something to do. So they do what the sign says. It's fun. I get it. But the piss poor comedy that does go on is written by these leftist university educated like they're liberals and they never got out of the university, and then they got this internship job at CBS and they write these jokes with ChatGPT, and they're very leftist and they're very boomer friendly jokes because that's what they want. And they do the same shtick every night, come out with a suit, everybody claps. They're living this glory days. Like it's just over. Like they're gonna go the way of the newspaper and the way of the car show. Me and Christy always talk about the car show. A lot of older people, especially boomers, have these old classic cars. Their kids, when they die, inevitably one day, will never take care of those cars. They don't know how to fix the cars. They don't have enough money to paint the cars. To get one bumper re-chromed would be $5,000. They're never going to do that. The boomers did it in a time where it cost nothing. You were able to obtain 10, 15 classic cars and have a house, send your kids to college, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill, the boomer drill. No need to go down that rant anymore. But the car shows are not going to go on. Younger people, let's say right now, I'd say the boomers' children are not going to bring the 55 Chevy to the grass car show and sit there on a lawn chair with white socks up to their knees and bullshit with their buddies, smoking a cigar, talking about the good old days of economic prosperity in the 70s and 80s. That's never going to happen. We will barely be able to afford our daily driver cars, and we will most certainly not have enough money to repaint the old Ford Fairlane. So they're going to go. Newspapers already gone. Already gone. And you know what else is next? Late night television, especially those late night comics, if you could even call them that. There was a glory days, I'll tell you. Like you had Johnny Carson and Letterman and Leno. It was awesome. The boomers loved those shows because that's what you did. You had a TV dinner, Salisbury steak. You stayed up, had a little whiskey, maybe a cigarette, and you watched those shows and you laughed because there was nothing else. and it wasn't all political propaganda and nonsense. It was just funny jokes. Not everything had a message. Not everything was planned programming. You got Jimmy Kimmel up there. He's the most unfunny, uninteresting guy ever. His eyes are squinted shut. He doesn't even look like he has pupils. He says the same jokes in that monotone, nasally voice every night. It's like The View at night, and it's Jimmy Kimmel. And you want to pretend that this guy actually has feelings and is a genuine person and not some corporate monster. Even though if you have half a brain, you know he is. If you had half a brain and did any research at all, you would know that Jimmy Kimmel was the host of The Man Show, which the intro was women topless jumping on trampolines. And on that show, he would dress in blackface as Oprah Winfrey, which was him pretending to be Oprah Winfrey, often stepping on a Spanish descent maid. That was a big bit. He was torturing the maid as Oprah with full blackface. And he also used to dress up as other African American people like Karl Malone and make fun of how stupid he was. This is not me. This is Jimmy Kimmel. But now he's an altruistic, feminist, liberal, compassionate, Trump hating hero. And you all believe that. If you believe that, let me sell you another one. You believe that the hero, President Zelensky, always in a jumpsuit or tracksuit or sweatpants? Remember him, the hero of Ukraine, President Zelensky? He used to be a comedian as well. He used to be a comedian. He was placed into that role by, well, it's up to speculation. You could look into that, who did that. But when he was a comedian, he used to play the piano with his penis. President Zelensky, once comedian, used to play the piano with his penis. And now he is begging the U.S. for more bombs so that the tiny nation of Ukraine can defeat Russia. Sounds right, right? People put Ukrainian flags in their yards. They're like, I stand with Ukraine. They don't know any of this. They don't know anything. And that's okay. That's the plan. They want you to know nothing. They want you to turn on the late night show. Trump bad. These guys are smart. Hey, look, a band. They're playing the music. I love the music. That's what they want. But that era is over. Just so you know, Kimmel and Fallon, you're next. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. You know the same people that watch The View. They wake up and they don't work. You know these people don't work. They watch morning TV. They watch daytime television. They watch soap operas. They keep the same channel on all day because they still have cable. And The View runs right into the late night shows. So it's The View, The Price is Right, Ellen, all that crap. You know how it is. And then they go right into Kimmel and Fallon and all these. It's all the same message, just different mouthpieces. But it's all nonsense. Nobody under the age of 45 watches any of those shows, just so you know. And I'm being generous there. I'm being generous there. Nobody's watching for good reason, you know? So sorry, Stephen Colbert. Time to go. You better jump on the podcast bandwagon and keep your 10,000 fans. Maybe they'll watch it if they can figure out how to use their phone, you know? They're probably canceling their DirecTV right now. Well, you got rid of Stephen Colbert. I love Stephen Colbert. Sorry, get with the times. Broaden your horizons. Read a little. Change the channel. Last but not least, the story that everyone's talking about, the Jumbotron fiasco, the Jumbotron affair. I'm going to give you my take. I have two takes. Two takes. Give you the backstory first. Andy Bryan, is that his name? Andy Bryan, I guess. I don't know if I said it right, but who cares? He was married with kids. He's the CEO of this company no one's ever heard of. It's an AI and data company called Astronomer. I don't even know if that's how you say it. Something around that, spelt similar to astronomer. Company's worth over $1 billion, you know? And this guy goes to a Coldplay concert, which is laughable in and of itself. But he brings his HR woman from his company, Kristen Cabot, and they get caught in an intimate position enjoying Coldplay on the Jumbotron. And this moment, of course, goes viral. I have a lot to say about this. First of all, this is a concert. Why is there a Jumbotron going on? I thought that was like hockey games and baseball games, maybe football games, like a kiss cam. I didn't know that went on at concerts. That's news to me. I don't love that. It's a little annoying. Um, so there's a Jumbotron. If you're a Coldplay fan for whatever reason, you'd be a Coldplay fan. But I mean, I like Coldplay. I like a couple Coldplay songs. I would never say I'm a Coldplay fan where I want to go to their entire concert. What do they have? Like Yellow? That's it. I was shocked when they got a Super Bowl, but then I understand the entertainment industry and who did the Colts and the rituals and who gets their due. I understand that now. Anyways, Coldplay, they're singing their songs. It's like fake U2. You know Coldplay. It's all sappy crap. And this guy went. He must be a Coldplay fan. Maybe he knows they use the Jumbotron. Even if they didn't use the Jumbotron, you are going to an event with 60,000 plus people. You may get caught cheating if you're cheating. That's why, like, this guy should have known it was a bad idea from the get go. Don't bring your mistress on a date. I don't do any of this, by the way. I'm very happily married in my relationship, and I have a child, and I don't do any of this. But I'm not an idiot. I have experience, and I understand what the world is. I've seen a lot of things, met a lot of people. Here's my lesson to all you people that may be thinking about that or have the ability to do it. I'm going to tell you, you don't take a mistress on a date. Number one, a mistress is for, let's say, hooking up with in secrecy. A mistress is not your girlfriend, okay? A mistress is not somebody you wine and dine, maybe at your burner apartment when no one's looking, but you don't bring her in a public space. You understand? A mistress is someone you bring to a dirty, sleazy motel room, and you wear a hat and sunglasses at night when you meet her there in a rental car. You don't go to the Coldplay concert with your work people, with people you work with. You don't bring, first of all, this guy messed up so many times. I'm just saying that's what you don't, that's not how you do a mistress. A mistress is done in secrecy. That's why it's a mistress. Now beyond the mistress part, this guy broke the rule. He had like a work wife. That's another issue. You don't do that either. You don't have a work wife. You don't have a woman or vice versa. You don't have a partner or a person that you flirt with often enough at work where there's like tension there. You don't do that. That's an error. That's a boo-boo. And then you definitely don't go out with them to an intimate setting like a Coldplay concert where it's all sad crap music. So that was another error on this guy's on his part. You don't shit where you eat. Also, you don't date at work, even if the guy was single. You don't date at work because then it ruins everything. Especially the HR woman. You date the HR woman and it goes wrong, or you find someone else. She's writing up a claim about you, or she's gonna deny your claim, or like that's the one person you'll mess with. Actually, I didn't want that kiss in the break room. Actually, I didn't want you to rub my shoulders on lunch. That's this guy is just fumbling. And a lot of poor people or regular people that aren't billionaires cheat all the time and they don't get caught. So, like, is your guard let down when you're rich? You think you're untouchable? This guy was an idiot. And remember, this is just take one. I have take two. But yeah, this guy was very dumb, very brazen, very risky of this guy to go out with his fellow coworkers in this private booth at a Coldplay concert and intimately have his hands around this HR woman. Like, what are you doing? This guy had a wife and kids at home. And this is a very rude take, but I'm going to say it because I'm just honest. If you're going to risk everything and cheat and throw your whole life away, don't do it with someone from your workplace that you employ. Don't do it at a Coldplay concert, and don't do it with an older woman. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you're going to cheat, why are you doing it with an older woman you work with? You know what I'm saying? If you're risking it all, go pay for that OnlyFans woman that's 24. You know what I'm saying? Do what Tom Brady does, or do what Leonardo DiCaprio does. Like he won't date over the age of 27. I mean, go big or go home. What are you doing with the HR woman? Like, you're not a poor. You're a billionaire. I think for a minute he forgot he was a billionaire. He goes, well, the HR woman listens to me talk. My wife doesn't listen to me talk. She gets me. Like when I want to talk about Star Wars, she listens. Like that guy, this is the difference. Usually men cheat or men go for younger girls because they're just lustful, looking for the intimacy of the sexual relationship. They're not emotionally cheating. That's what they always say about men and women. The difference is when men cheat, it's to fulfill an urge. When women cheat, it's emotionally. This guy was cheating emotionally because obviously this woman wasn't like some young bombshell. Let's just be honest. And it wasn't just a random sexual urge. He was taking her on a date to a Coldplay concert. That's something couples do that actually care about one another. That's why it was odd. This guy emotionally cheated, which is odd. I don't believe you get caught up in the moment. You don't just randomly rub on someone like that and hold them at the waist. It doesn't happen. Maybe if you're drunk and you're cheating, you might hook up with someone and it was just lustfully, sexually, but you don't even know anything about the woman or love them. This guy like loved this woman. This was like his work wife. That's why it was a scandal. Now, there's all this problem with this that the woman that works there was the one that told the Jumbotron to, there's all this, a scandal going on. Who knows? Anyways, that's my take if everything was on the up and up. I don't even think this was on the up and up. I think this was all fake because I'm thinking on another dimension. I'm on like the fifth or sixth dimension, you know? This is all fake. What are the odds statistically that Coldplay shined that light on them? Be honest. Why is every news station talking about this? Are we as a people that similar where we all just love dirty laundry and we love talking about crap like this? Or is it intentional to get everyone's attention? Is it intentional? Is something going on in the world and this is the distraction? This is this week's distraction from some country getting bombed or some discovery being found or some backyard deal going on. You have no idea, but I think it's just a dumb distraction. Who even heard of this stupid company before? Who even knows if it's real? You know what I'm saying? What company worth $1 billion takes its staff out to a Coldplay concert? This seems fishy. How coincidental. What a good distraction. Everyone's talking about it, even me. You got 12 minutes out of me talking about these idiots. If you were to go out and cheat and get caught, nobody would care. And if this guy just was quiet about it and didn't duck and cover, it might not have been so bad. You say, that wasn't me. I don't even know who that was. The fact that they acted this way, and he put out that statement. I don't know if the statement's true. They're saying it might be fake, but he kind of like blamed Coldplay. He's like, I thought we had the privacy at a concert. I didn't know we had to be a public spectacle. Like, yeah, like it was Coldplay's fault that you were cheating on your wife at a Coldplay concert. It has, for his sake, that better be a fake statement. He'll probably get kicked out of the company. Definitely going to be divorced. Maybe they can make it work now that he's divorced. Hey, I lost my wife and my kids and half my money. We could be together now. She goes, no. That's what would happen too. That's life. That's life. The wife probably met that HR woman before and was like, she was probably like, what's his name? What's the guy's name? Andy, I don't like that woman. What? Her? What was her? What's her name? But you mean you don't like Kristen? Kristen. What's wrong with Kristen? She's just a HR girl. I don't like the way she looks at you, Andy. I don't like that woman. I want you to stay away from that woman. Oh, honey, don't worry about her. She's no one. Like women have that intuition. I do not like that bitch. I don't like that HR bitch. You're probably with that HR bitch. No, honey, you're crazy. They'll gaslight you too. These billionaires like, honey, I bring home $1 billion for the family. She goes, oh, you're right. In the back of her head, she's like, I knew it. She's probably watching TV on TikTok and she'll go, oh my God, it's my husband. Imagine the kids. Dad, what are you doing? What are you at a Coldplay concert? I can explain. Whenever you think you have it bad, there's always somebody that has it worse. Remember that. And once you get somewhere, it's never guaranteed. That's why you always have to be humble. That guy, he became a billionaire. He thought it was over. Oh, I made it in life. Life is good. I'm content now. No. Same. Doesn't matter how much money you make, except same problems. More money, more problems. You think only poor people around here cheat? A lot of people around here, they cheat at like a county fair. They go to a Motel 6 or an Econo Lodge, they cheat. You get rich, same shit. Just get better seats for the concert. But life is odd. Sometimes you think you get away with something, and then the Jumbotron hands over to you. And then what? My lesson to all of you is, what are you going to do when the Jumbotron pans over to you? What are you going to do? You have anything to hide? You're living a good life. Are you going to have a nice kiss with your partner? Or are you going to be scared to death and hit the deck and dive down and hide from the humiliation of 60,000 people? And then in a few hours, millions of people. It's my lesson for you. Don't be that guy. Even though it was planned. Trump got Colbert fired because he has the Epstein list. And Colbert was making fun of Trump about the Epstein situation, calling him a scapegoater and making all sorts of jokes, which all those late night comics had made jokes about Trump for, 8 years now. Without Trump, they wouldn't have anything to talk about. They actually owe Trump a huge favor. Trump gave them tons and tons of material over the years. But yeah, Trump may have called it in, said, get Colbert out of here. And he had a picture of Colbert on the island. And they say, you get fired now or this gets leaked. He probably also had something on the Coldplay lead singer and said, I need you to expose this CEO that's trying to screw over me. He's an AI CEO. We're going to ruin his life. We want to distract everybody from what we're doing over in Israel. I want you to do this. And he went, okay, just don't let my wife know about that photo. He goes, you got it. As long as you expose that cheater. They might have put something in his beer. They might have put like a aphrodisiac, made him all, horned up. Starts talking to the HR girl. There might have been nothing going on. It might have just been a posed thing. It might have been a Secret Service agent under the thing saying, here's what you're going to do. Listen to me right now if you want to live. You don't know anything. It could all be a lie. Trump may have the sports almanac or the Epstein list, and he may be using it to his advantage. Everything you see may be a distraction. I am just a cowboy in the basement, but I will tell you this is honest. This is honest show. And this show is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop, located in historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. We love those two establishments. I will be back with more episodes. I have a car review video coming out. I'm going to have some guests on. Don't worry. Had to touch on some stuff today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Should come out Saturday night. With that being said, stay curious, my friends. Good night.